Red Dread Entertainment, what is up? Comics Plus, brought to you in part by Akasan. It's here with a very special guest. We got M-dogg, man. What is up, dude? What is up? What's up?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
We if you make sure you check out the Instagram on both of our channels here, because we just met a few hours ago for the first time for Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, the first time we're actually live streaming as well on his channel. It's about 3 a.m. in the morning now.
We were for me.
We were gonna react to Aquaman, but we had sushi instead, and we might get a little more fish later tonight.
Firing
as well.
shots.
Yeah, you know, I'm just saying. Nevertheless, we have to have this discussion now because it's on everybody's mind. Is polarizing opinions on Venom.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw it with some of your fellow members of Struggle Nation together. And it's weird because I was actually very surprised on how polarizing I feel this movie is. Because I'm reading reports of people fucking standing and applauding this movie. People laughing at every fucking scene. And people applauding when the movie ends. And I'm like, what fucking movie did they see? Because they did not see the same movie I saw. And I was actually very surprised because usually opening night in America, that's the reaction I expect. However, I wasn't the only one that seemed fairly bored out of their goddamn mind. I heard people just shaking their head, or saw people shaking their head. People were laughing at unintentional parts that were supposed to be serious or whatever. But to me, the movie really did come off as kind of a parody of what not to do anymore. Written very much like a 1990s, 95 type of, it was like kind of stuck in time type of movie and such. But you enjoyed the movie a lot.
I enjoyed it.
Why?
All right, so start from the beginning.
Yeah, go for it.
The movie is still violent, even though it's PG-13, to the point where Struggle Soldier didn't even know it was rated R. I mean, didn't even know it was rated PG-13. He thought it was still rated R.
Okay.
Because he's biting heads off. He's killing people. He's killing people. Like there's no mistaking it. He's killing people. He's biting heads off. He wants to kill people the whole movie. So I think I saw him decapitate somebody at one time. Yeah.
I was actually surprised about that. I'm like, oh shit, did he just decapitate a cop or some shit, or a hitman? Yeah.
And threw the body away.
Yeah, that was cool.
So there is violence there. The CGI when he's Venom and the fighting is dope. When he's Venom, the transformation is dope.
Did you watch it in regular 2D or 3D?
2D.
Okay. Maybe that might have been a big difference because I thought the CG was horrible. But I saw it in real 3D, and that was the first time watching something in real 3D in a long time.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
I think the CG is easier to pick apart in 3D because you see more elements of it and all that. But in 2D, the CGI is dope. Okay.
Like
when he transforms and he's Venom, all of that is amazing. Because he's fucking people up. He's fighting. There's one scene where he's fighting like 20, 30 cops. He's bouncing from cop to cop, killing, using bodies as shields, using bodies as weapons. All of that is dope. I thought the fighting, all of that was dope. I thought him as Venom was dope. I thought the interaction between him and Eddie was dope.
Okay.
Now, as a movie, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. You can tell parts of it was cut out. So the pacing is kind of iffy in certain spots.
It's choppy, yeah, it's choppy. I agree with you.
But it doesn't make it a bad movie. That didn't make it bad for me. Like I still had a good time. I still enjoyed it, and like I had a good time. Like in the very beginning, before he becomes Venom, if you want to nitpick, you can say it's not the most fleshed out movie. There are some issues, whatever like that, but. And the obvious changes, of course, because they want to separate it from Spider-Man. So there's changes that they make that you're like, whatever. But even with that, I still had a good time from beginning to end because they show how violent the movie was. Right from the beginning, people are dying.
So for you, what do you think was the strongest points? Because I keep on hearing violence and violence and violence. Is that what makes a good movie in your mind?
No, definitely not. I think the execution with him as Venom is what we wanted to see.
Violence.
Oh no, not violence. Like just him as a character, like his interaction with Eddie Brock, the way he interacted with him, the relationship that they both had, how it built from where it started to where it ended, to the point where he changed his intentions because he actually grew to like Eddie, like the world. He was taking the world in piece by piece and like, you know what, this isn't a piece of shit. So you know what,
you're a loser. Like me.
He was roasting the whole movie. That shit was funny.
Okay.
And some people may hate comedy in movies like this, but I thought the comedy was good. Because he was roasting, calling him pussy and everything. Because he wanted to take a certain way.
I thought
Eddie was like, nah, we're going this way. He called him a pussy. I'm like, that's funny.
I thought that was funny. That was actually the one part of the movie that I think everybody laughed at.
Yeah, like
we all agreed with that. Yeah.
To me, the humor landed. Like there may have been a couple of jokes that that fell flat, but I thought the humor was good. I thought the action was good. I thought the CGI was good. I thought the villain, not the best, but he was an asshole, and you hated the villain, which is the purpose of a villain. He was a dickhead.
Okay, that's crazy. I completely feel like we saw like a completely different movie.
Now by villain, which one do you think I'm talking about?
Which one? What?
Riot.
Right. Yeah. Right. I know. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even see Riot as a plausible villain. I thought the movie was extremely predictable. I think my biggest thing with this movie is everything in this movie was so generic and so predictable that it could have been anybody's movie. Like everything that, for me, as a Venom fan, as somebody that grew up on Venom, I didn't really feel like I was watching the Venom I knew. And I'm okay with accepting minor changes or changes for the better. But I feel like every change that was made in this movie to adapt to whatever they were trying to put just disconnected me in such a way that I really couldn't get on board with this situation. I don't want to make it seem as a nitpick situation, but I do feel that there are incremental points that just didn't make sense to me. Why does the symbiote call himself Venom? Where did they even get the name? Where did the name Riot come from? It wasn't an Earth-given name. The whole idea of Venom was it's a fusion of Eddie in the symbiote, or if you want to call them others, and they addressed that in the movie. We call them host, or in the comics they used to call it my other, or whatever like that. And the fusion of that makes Venom. Now I also know that in the comics that the symbiote, after a while, 10 years or so, they started calling the symbiote itself just the Venom symbiote, and the host later was put in there. But I just felt like there were just so many dramatic changes in this movie that I just really couldn't get on board with it and really enjoy it. Though I also feel that if this movie came out back in 1994, I would have loved this movie. But I also feel like at that time we didn't have many options of what made a good comic book movie. We're in 2018 where motherfuckers are killing half the population with a snap of their fingers, where people are building things up to a certain point where you can be executed really well. Obviously, Marvel has been doing that well because they've had a plan. Warner Brothers has tried, and they're making changes, but they're getting to the point where I feel confident enough that their movies, you're going to go in and you're going to see a very solid script. I think at this point in time, at this day and age, what Sony put out was an abysmal type of movie that I feel it's actually an insult to the comic book fans and the comic book movie loving people that are going in expecting something similar to what Marvel's putting out, at least quality, or even what DC is putting out, and getting the shit that would have been acceptable in 94. That's my thing. I think that's the biggest thing. I felt like I was watching an old ass movie that should not be existing in this day and age, and we as fans deserve a better class of comic book movies.
Okay, so here's the thing. Now you're just like a friend of mine. He holds the comics near and dear, which I understand. And when he sees movies, he wants it to be like it is in the comic.
Right, but I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. Like I said in the beginning, I can accept change where change is due. I can accept adaptions. The Dark Knight, the Batman movies, the Nolan movies they're close to the comic books, but there are some sort of freedoms that they take to make it more realistic. But it works really well. I can accept that they can attempt to make a Venom movie without Spider-Man, even though Venom is literally the product of Spider-Man hating Spider-Man. I can accept that they can attempt to make an origin movie, but if it's not a good story, I can't get on board with that.
Okay,
that was my biggest issue, was like, look, okay, you can make a Venom movie without Spider-Man if you want. You can try, but this fucking story sucks. That's the biggest problem I had with it.
If I wanted to nitpick, I could say there's certain parts of the story that that weren't the best. But even with that didn't make it a bad movie for me, because I legit had a good time. Movies about having fun, having a good time, seeing the character brought to life, seeing it done better than done previously. Now, the only thing we have live action to reference is Spider-Man 3.
Right.
That's all we have live action. Seeing this Venom, the way he was meant to look, the way he was meant to act, that alone gives the points for me.
See, and it's funny you mention that, because honestly, outside of some issues I have with Spider-Man 3, the fucking dancing, which a symbiote would never fucking do in that, the dancing, but the concept of the fact that they did the black suit and it was passed on, and Eddie Brock and the symbiote both have a shared interest of fucking hating Spider-Man, and that's why they formed Venom. Character design, I'm not real big on that either, but I still felt that was a better origin story than taking things of the original Venom story, the original origin, and they make nods to it, but it still I could never really get on board with that. That was the biggest issue I had.
Better origin story, yes. Better execution, no.
Okay.
The execution in Venom, light years ahead. Now, the origin story may be better in Spider-Man 3, but that's just the origin story. Everything else, like, from who they picked to be Venom, it was just played with disaster. Even the way he looked, the CG was,
I'm not arguing it, but I do think that Topher Grace, with the role that they were given, I personally would have liked them to have swapped the roles. The guy that played Sandman,
he'd have been a way better Eddie Brock,
right?
Yeah. Now Topher Grace did the best with what he was given. No hate against him. Now, I actually like Spider-Man 3.
Yeah,
I don't hate the movie. I think it was played with studio interference, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, we can talk about that in a whole nother video. The execution in this movie was great. Him as Venom, seeing his combat, seeing him fighting, seeing him be Venom, from the interaction. Like, I don't have any problem with the changes that they made. Like, them having a planet where they were, whatever, and they had names.
Right.
That's
the planet Knoll or something.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me at all. Like, him saying he was a loser on this planet and now he has a chance to be something. Like, it gave him more of a personality. Like, it gave an identity to Venom before he found a host. Okay. And it showed his legit want to help, to the point where when he was separated, he wanted to get back to Eddie to help him. Right. Because he knew what the risk was. So he had more of an identity. He had an identity. So the changes they made to the story, they're fine with me. Like, I don't think it was a bad movie at all. Like, there's different levels to look at this.
No, I agree with you, and I will also accept the fact that there's two characters I'm really sensitive about, and I've noticed within the last 3 years or 4 years, those are the two movies that I have the biggest problems with. The one of them being Batman, right? Which BVS is a whole nother situation. Yeah. Making Batman a fucking murderer, terrible decision.
But he was a murderer when he first came out, though.
What?
He was a murderer when he first came out.
Who, Batman?
Yeah.
Yeah, Superman used to fuck his cousin, or wanted to fuck his cousin in the comic books. Just because it happened in the comic books when it first came out doesn't mean that that's like the definitive one we know now of today.
But I'm just saying, like, the way they changed it, because people are acting like Batman never killed and never, like, when he first came out, like, he had guns, like he was
Right, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother video too.
That's a whole nother video of the fact that like that age, and people have put that out there. It's like that lasted like a fucking 4 or 5 issues. Like people stand on that hill, but it's not the way we look at Batman today, and for the longest run as well. But that's
fair enough.
a whole nother situation. Going back to what was the point about this? Oh, and then with Venom himself, I'm fairly sensitive about that one too, because I do have that. So I understand, and I'm okay if people enjoyed this particular movie. I'm not gonna say they're fucking wrong for enjoying this movie.
But there are aspects of the movie you did like.
Yeah, I mean, if I really wanted, and I was having this conversation with Tyrone yesterday, I think both you and Tyrone look at the movie in parts instead of the full package. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, I think I look at it, I look at a movie as a production, as a whole. Beginning, middle, end. It's all gotta be graded in one grade. Whereas I think some people just look at movies in terms of what a few scenes, and I'm like, if those scenes were dope, if that action was cool, if there was a bit of humor that was cool, then that makes the movie great or good to great like that. Where I usually judge a movie by the entire package, like that, the entire execution.
See.
And so I think I pay more attention to the screenwriting and the actual story than I do any, like for me, Transformers or any action, I'm generally not a big fan of action in action movies, believe it or not. If that makes any sense. Because that car scenes, car chase, bikes, whatever, I'm just like, oh, there's going to be a bunch. We already know where this character is going to end up based upon what we see in trailers and what have you not. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does.
I'm just kind of like, okay, so when Eddie Brock's driving around on a motorcycle, I'm like, this shit went like 3 minutes too long. Because I already know where they're going to be later in the movie. So I'm like, there's nothing really that cool about it unless it's like fucking Justin Wong or somebody who's well renowned for action movies to show me something cool. If it's John Wick, what have you not, you know?
So... all right, when it comes to movies, I don't look at it in parts, and I don't cherry pick the good parts. I look at it from beginning, middle, end.
Okay.
How it flowed to me, whether there was any point in time where I felt bored or just wanted the time to pass or I wasn't having a good time. Now, when it comes to the way you look at movies, the way you judge movies, if like. Now the way you think, and it's not wrong because you think of it from a more technical standpoint,
right? And
sometimes when you do, you kind of hinder yourself from enjoying certain parts.
I can see that, yeah.
Because
you know
you're grading it on a technical aspect, and it's just like somebody who's like really really good at playing the piano. If they're a master playing the piano, and they hear
they
piano
look behind the scenes of how that piano.
Yeah,
they can't really enjoy another person's
like,
classic.
When I started doing short films and making stuff, and then when I started watching TV, then I was able to pick out where the jump cuts were bad and the continuity errors and stuff like that. So then you kind of hinder yourself from enjoying certain aspects, and that's kind of how we are when we learn certain things. You can't not see it. Because it's right there in front of your face.
True.
But with me, like I tend to be able to take a step back and just kind of, when I see movies, I'm like a kid. I take it all in, and I want to, I enjoy what I'm seeing. Unless it's so bad, like Independence Day Resurgence, that it's just like, what the fuck am I watching? I can't do this. Like, I just enjoy it and see if things are executed well, how the action is, how the dialogue is, and if I have a good time, to me that makes it a good movie.
Okay,
because it's all about personal opinion.
That's interesting because I hear that. I'm not gonna say excuse, but I hear that sort of point a lot. Is like, it makes me feel like a kid again. Or I felt like the kid inside of me really liked this movie, but I'm like, yo, the kid inside of me my mom isn't paying for this movie anymore. I'm paying for this movie, and I expect, if particularly this movie was originally trying to be rated R and what have you not or whatever. Like these are grown ass men and women now going to see these movies. So I expect these movies. I'm not expecting a Disney movie. I'm not expecting a kids movie. I'm not expecting it to be something projected to me like I'm a fucking kid anymore. I want it to be developed well at this point. So again, that's why I reiterate, if this was 1994, I probably would have loved this movie because we didn't have much to shit at that time. Spawn is a good example. I fucking loved that movie, but I was also like fucking 14 when.
But with Spawn, I think it's still a good movie with what they were given and what they had to work.
You can go back. You can go back and look at Spawn and be like, you know what? We all say the same thing. If you go back and look at a lot of those movies now, you'll be like, oh man, this is kind of corny. But at that time, it was cool. But I feel that Venom doesn't belong in this time zone. And I go back to my other statement is we deserve a better class of CBMs at this point. And I also agree that, there goes your stream.
No. Oh,
yeah. I also agree that, what's the point I'm trying to make? We'll get you a power cord. I have a charger really quick.
Oh no, this is a charger.
Okay, cool.
In the case, it's all good.
I also agree that one of the bigger problems is The Dark Knight was so good, it kind of fucked up things for the rest of CBMs at that point. Like, The Dark Knight raised the scale of what CBMs can be or should be that everybody compares it at that point. I understand it's been 10 years, but it's changed the way we look at Logan, changed the way we look at superhero movies at this point. So every once in a while, we keep on getting these movies that really stand out, but then we start taking steps back with things like Venom. And I think that's my issue on there is it goes back to my sensitivity or care for characters that I really like. I think if it was any other character that I really didn't give a shit about, I probably would have been like, okay, this movie was kind of dumb, but I guess this is what people want.
Yeah, when you have a certain attachment to a character, then you know.
So I'm not even avoiding that situation. So I know going in, I really wanted to love it, but it just kind of wasn't clicking personally with me.
Yeah.
So I can see where other people like it because they probably don't really have that same attachment that I have, like Batman. Like,
but see, there's people that love like when we went. Joe's high school friend, she was there, and she's a comic book Venom fan. She has the comic books, like she loves the character. Yeah, and she absolutely loved the movie. So like it seems to be split right down the middle. Yeah, with people on both sides, whether they love the character, or hate the character. Like some people just really love the movie, some people really hate the movie. So it's kind of weird when you think about it.
I agree because it's weird because I think like for example, Suicide Squad. I know a lot of people that really fucking hate that movie. Yeah, but for me, I don't really have that problem. I don't have the same problem with that movie that everybody else has. Yeah, I know it's not the best. It's not the most well executed movie, but I really looked at that movie as like it's fucking Suicide Squad. Like I'm like that. Yeah. That's it. Like what am I? I mean, I went in there. I got some dope scenes from the Joker. Right. People disagree with it, but I personally saw a connection with that particular Joker, and I saw where they were coming from, and there's a certain version of Joker in the comics that kind of makes sense of him being the mob boss type pimp dude, whatever, right? So, it's I'm also perplexed sometimes. I'm perplexed in the sense that, like, when I see some of those exits situations coming out where it's so mixed, and I think Venom is like I almost feel like Zack Snyder directed this movie in the sense, or wrote this movie in the sense that we're getting such a polarizing difference of opinion in this movie. It's so weird to me because to me it perplexes me how so many people can really like this movie, but somebody made a really good point in the fact that people fucking love Transformers movies, and those are fucking hot garbage to me as well.
I mean, 1 through 3, I love those. 4 and 5,
I only like the first Transformers movie, and then after that, I just felt like the character development just went crazy and just got really dumb afterwards. So that might be another thing. I love character development. I love broken characters. I love broken characters rising to the top, and I feel like Venom really missed the mark with that one. Eddie Brock, and again, I'm able to accept some changes, but certain things, Eddie Brock is a broken character. He was down on his luck and things like that. They tried to give him a different version of that story where he lost everything, but he still was. He didn't really seem that bad at the same time.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why like there's some stuff that they cut you notice, because
Right.
I'm pretty sure they fleshed that out a lot more, because when he lost everything, it's like the next scene he's at the bar.
Right.
It seems like he's cool.
Right?
And then he just, he goes by.
He's fucking tipping. He's giving $20 to homeless women and shit. I'm like, wait, how you living, Eddie, like that, you know?
So and like apparently he lost his place. They didn't show that. So a lot of scenes that have to do with that, I'm pretty sure that's a lot of stuff that they cut out, because it doesn't make sense for them to just have that story and just cut.
Right.
So that was probably
right. Like a good example is Upgrade as well. I thought Upgrade, the character development with that movie worked really well, because it was really, and it was real simple. It was like, he just fucking lost his wife, and you saw him break down and cry.
Yeah, you saw every step of him losing everything, and you kind of was there in that journey.
And I feel Upgrade was a really simple movie. Like it wasn't fucking Shakespearean screenwriting.
It's a simple concept.
It connected enough.
Great execution.
Right. And I feel like the execution of Venom was so poorly missed, again, in this day and age, that they could have fixed it a lot easier. And I just feel like Sony kind of disrespected all of us, the entire audience, in this sense of like, oh, we just need to fucking push this movie out instead of just take our time with it instead. So, that's my deal with that one. I feel like they really didn't need to rush this movie out. It looked like they rushed this movie out. At least Suicide Squad has the excuse that they only wrote that movie in like 6 weeks or some shit like that. Right. Venom, they've been taking some time with that one. Like, I'm like, come on now. And they got Tom Hardy on that shit, you know?
Yeah, I know there were like a lot of issues with production and reshoots and rewrites and all that. But I mean, even with that, like I still had a good time.
And since it's a spoiler territory anyways, motherfucking that end credit just irritated me so much.
Because of the wig?
The fucking goofy ass wig.
Yeah, that's. I think you take the wig out and it's good.
He had a clown fucking wig on. Like he literally looked like Carrot Top or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And no, just the writing itself, and like, you don't need to say Carnage, dude. Like, come on now.
Yeah, I think that was a little too on the nose.
I was like, come on now, man.
But
like,
that didn't make it bad, because I mean the way the scene's set up, like he's writing something in blood, so like that whole build up was good. You just take the wig out, change the dialogue at the very end, because it's like they really want you to know. So he's like, I'm Carnage. So pretty much.
It just, the whole movie just came off really corny to me sometimes. I don't know what it was. It was just a combination of things that I never really got on the hype train in the movie. Before the movie came out, I'm like, you know what? Let me check this out. I mean, literally, I have a Venom shirt right over there right now. I sleep in Venom pajamas and shit. So, I don't know. It just really missed the mark. But maybe in a few months, because I have tickets for the Japanese premiere next month. Maybe I'll watch it again.
Yeah, watch it again.
Maybe my version will change, but I'm good with them not coming back on this one.
Even in my theater, people were laughing, people were applauding at the end.
That is crazy, because it was dead tired for me.
They had a good time.
It was dead quiet for me, except for Sly and people pointing out some really plot holes and things like that. like his wife leaving him just like that, and things like just so many little things like that.
I mean, like I would say like pretty much 90% of the humor landed in my audience because like the dude next door who was playing the guitar, like the scene where he got fed up and went over there and then transformed. Dude was like, oh shit, okay, like
so corny.
I mean, to me that was funny.
That's so weird.
That was funny.
It was so predictable to me and so corny at the same time. I was like, really? Is this the kind of movie we're getting nowadays? I think that's really what it is for me. That's really what it is for me. Like, yo, if this was like a Netflix special and that's the weirdest part I have is the fact that people will love this type of movie or people will love Transformers, but then they'll fucking tear apart The Last Jedi for trying to put some depth into it, and like,
and that's where you kind of have to agree to disagree, because it's like people have so many different opinions. Because me personally, I love The Last Jedi.
Me too.
People hated it,
right? But I can't understand that. I'm like, wait, how can you love Venom or like? And there are people out there. You can love Venom, but you feel like the Last Jedi, and I think that it goes back full circle to what we're talking about personal attachments to certain characters and certain images and certain visions we have of character development. So I have a close relationship with Venom and Batman and Spider-Man, but I don't with The Last Jedi. So any changes they make, if they kill off Luke Skywalker, I'm like, oh, that was pretty fucking cool. Like that was a cool way to go out, Luke. Where other people are like, you fucking killed Luke? Oh fuck no, like that. Yeah. But I thought that was the dopest fucking way to take him out and shit. Force projection.
I mean, he had one of the dopest scenes of the film, right? At the end, like that was so badass. And then to pretty much go out on your own terms.
But other people didn't like it, so I guess, yeah, like you said, agree to disagree.
Yeah, it's like, at this point, like, I'm not going to be sitting here arguing with people. It's like, yeah, I know what I like. Right. And if you don't like it, then we can talk about why you didn't like it. We can have a discussion, and then ultimately, like, you're not going to convence me that it's a bad movie if I like it.
I'm not trying, and that's the thing, I'm not even trying to convince you that it's a bad movie. So we definitely have our differences of opinion. Right. I personally... Would you, and see, that's the only other thing that I have a bigger problem with is maybe the same people that are loving this Venom movie still want to see him and Spider-Man fight. But for me, what the fuck is the point at this point? Like, there's no personal investment in these two fighting anymore for any particular reason, particularly because Venom is trying to be a hero now. There's no reason these two should ever really be on opposite sides anymore.
I mean, but even in the comic though, he's still like, he's good per se, but like he goes after bad people, but he still hates Spider-Man.
Because they had a history, and that history is non-existent in this movie anymore. That's the point I have. I'm like, what's the point of having this anymore? Because they don't really even have a personal history. You're just gonna have them fighting for no reason now. Yeah. Like, unless Tom Holland accidentally fucks his bitch or some shit like that. Now we hate you, Spider-Man. Yeah. Like, that's about it. Like, all right, Tom Holland accidentally steps on his dog or some shit like that. Like, other than that, they have no reason to really be at each other's throats.
And they've gone through so much work to distance him from the universe. So I don't even think that'll be a thing at all anyway.
Well, we'll see, man. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Oh, damn, 30 minutes on that one. Yeah, but it's still shorter than the one me and Tyrone did on about BVS. That was a bigger argument. But you would definitely like to see a sequel then.
Yeah. I'll definitely see a sequel. And matter of fact, I'm going to see Venom again.
Damn.
I'm going to see it again.
I can't imagine. I can't.
Well, I mean, you're going to see it again too. So, like, once you see it again, I want to have another discussion and see exactly.
Maybe, or I might just give away the ticket. I don't know.
We'll see it again and just see if your opinions change.
I'm not gonna lie though. When I first saw Infinity War, I was just
I know.
I didn't hate it, But I was just distraught. Like I was like, I don't know if I like that.
And that's good because
yeah.
you were so like in a state of shock. You didn't know how you felt.
But I kind of liked it later. That I was like, damn, I was in a state of shock after that. Same.
Like I saw your face during that, and you looked like you couldn't really process what happened.
Yeah.
Which is good. That's what a movie should do.
But see, with BVS, I was just fucking mad afterwards, and so I felt the kind of same sort of feeling that I had for BVS with Venom. The same thing. I was just like, wow, they took it way too far. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with that. You're really particular in what you like, which makes you you. Like, and there's nothing wrong. That's how people should be. They should.
And somebody mentioned
like
even in your stream that they're like, but Drew, that's exactly what a critic is. That's what And I think that's also the other thing is like maybe if we weren't YouTube personalities, if we didn't have that thing, if I just went in as a fan, or without going in without the idea of knowing that I do need to make a review about it in the future, maybe I won't be pointing out these certain things as much. I don't know, but I do remember there was a time before I was doing YouTube that even my friends were like, God damn it, Aka, you should just make your own movies. Because I was fucking complaining about certain nitpicks back then too. So I think I'm a lot better now. So I don't point them out as much. But fucking Aquaman. That's next. That's it. That's it. Yeah, man. All right, we're out of here. Make sure you guys check out Echo Mog's channel, which is basically Echo Mog Media Group, the Struggle Nation. They do a lot of reaction videos, skits. They you guys stay in character. It's something that you never have seen before. Being in character while doing reactions, but it's still their honest reactions, and they make it a really good time, man. I really respect what the craft that they have put together on this stage of YouTube. All right, thank you very much, man.
We gotta do this again.
All right, yeah, we are Venom. Peace.